I'm not native speaker in English, so you probably will hear some bam, meh, maybe some pauses. I will try to find new, better words for my speech. I'll give you a sneak peek of what I'm gonna talk about. I will skip the part about myself. If you want to find out anything about me, what I do at Readdle and Fluix as well, just find me around. I will be here. And sneak peek. So I'm gonna talk about the checkout flow and the form itself and how it should be and might be designed for to make your users to buy a product. If they could not buy a product, you fail, right? So your checkout form should be designed properly. My speech will be divided into 3 parts. First one, as the product designer, so the user experience design, we have to start with the problem. Secondly, I will give you tips and tricks that should be applied for any form that you will probably design in your life. And the third part will be about the Fluix checkout form, the product I'm working on for 5 years, last 5 years. And we're gonna start with the fun stuff. Let's imagine a cozy restaurant on the beach, you with your loved ones sitting out there, having steaks, having wine, delicious vegan food, and so on. And you're calling the waiter, waiter, please give me the bill. But waiter coming with this. Fill out the form, please, first. Disaster, right? I had some experience like that. NetAtmo, some time ago, I tried to buy this device called NetAtmo weather something. So it's the device to measure CO2 level in your room, in your space. So you head into the product page, you click in buy now, then they redirect you downstairs to the all the way below the product page. You have to click buy now again, then they redirect you to another product page. You have to find your product once again, then they redirect you again. You have to find add to cart, then they redirect you again. You have to check out, and then you have a huge form. I didn't buy it. And then after I spent about 15 minutes maybe just to simplify the flow a little bit into 3 simple steps, quite simple form, and that's it. Why not to do that? So one more example, of course, with Apple, how we could get without them. So I want to buy an iPad. Let's imagine that I don't have Apple ID, I don't have nothing, I don't know how to Apple system doesn't work, and let's say I'm grandma or I don't know, a person 40 plus years. So I head into the page, iPad page, click in buy. Then they suggest me to choose the size. Then they say I have to choose the color, I have to choose the size, storage size, Wi-Fi or cellular. Then I have to go down to continue. Then I want to, they suggest me engraving. Come on, I want my iPad. Now I have to click add to bag. Now I have to review my bag. Now I have to go to checkout. Finally, all right, I gonna take it. Now I have to have Apple ID. What is that? I don't know. I will go with the guest. Now I have to choose how to deliver. Of course, deliver me. I don't want to pick it up. After that, I will have to put, I miss one step. I have to put the zip code, so they will figure out how much they will charge me, right? After that, I going down. I have to find the button continue with shopping. Finally, I'll buy it. No, I have to fill out the huge form for where to deliver it, right? After that, you get it, right? One more. So this is the whole flow just to buy the iPad, right? It could not be compared with the simple buying a product or a fruit, let's say, on the market. You've been giving the cash and that's it, right? On the online, you have to go all the way those whole steps, 8 redirections, 36 actions, 17 fields, and that's at least. That's horrible, right? One more example, American Airlines. I tried to buy a ticket for myself and I got blown away. So this is the whole flow to buy a ticket, and that's a minimum flow, right? You don't have to choose the place, you don't have to choose additional stuff like will I have a meal or something inside the plane. So this is the minimum flow. 6 redirection, 55 actions, 39 fields I have to fill out to buy a ticket on a night date. So it's quite bad, right? A few more examples. Sorry, a few more examples of American Airlines and the form how they have designed it. So this is they asked me to fill out 9 fields for 3 different numbers, phone numbers. They divided them on 10 fields instead of one simple item, right? So I just type in the number, the digits, that's it. But they give me the drop down for selecting the code. After that, I have to put in the provider, and after that, I need to put my number itself. They have drop downs for the day burst. Why? What for was this horrible drop down of the years? And the fun thing that I could be 120 years old. Strange, right? They have drop down for the gender selector. Okay, right now to be more diverse these years, right? I don't want to say my gender or I don't know who I am. But for the ticket, you have to choose. We have binary selection here. So why to make that through the drop downs? One more drop down, completely redundant, selecting the type of the card. Everyone in the world already know that by first 2 digits you can validate the type of the card. So you don't have to ask your users about that. Another example, PayPal. That's probably in my case only, but still. On the top, I just wanted to add the credit card, one more, to my account. So I click in plus on the top. Then I have the model screen on the whole screen with only one option. Then I have to choose the type of the card, and only then I will type in the card number. So why not to simplify that only for 2 steps? That's it. With first 2 digits, you will able to understand which card I use. That's simple. So why should I care? What should you care, right? So, pretty much simple. Man, I love to fill out form. Who said that? No one in the world. Never, ever. So, and the problem is quite everywhere. And I believe that's the problem. So I had bad experience buying Deutsche Bahn ticket, train ticket. And after half of year, sorry, not that long, half of hour, I didn't buy it. I just go to the train line, another competitor, and buy it there. So they lose me. And we were not exception. Our product, Fluix, currently inside the admin portal, and just step back to give you a little bit sneak peek. So the Fluix is the B2B service for the huge companies, and when they already register it, they have trial accounts, right? After the trial is expired, they will see this flow. They have to choose the plan, they have to choose and fill out the form with the billing information and so on. But here is the strange thing. First that user sees the red dots and Afghanistan. It's, how could we say about credibility here, right? Why Afghanistan? Because this is the first country in the alphabetic selector of the country, right? After that, they see this horrible form to fill out the credit card information. How could they do that? I mean, as the user, how could they put here information any? So my goal was to dive into the research, understand how this all stuff works, how all those fields works, how the billing and shipping details should we collect, how the fields works, and so on. I spent about 3 months on that, and after that I came up with this form for the Fluix, which I will dive in really detail a little bit later in the third part. And that for the payment details. So second part is the tips and tricks that you have to apply for your any form that you will design ever, right? So the first one, ask only the most important information at the current stage. If you need only email and only full name of the user, don't ask his weight or how it's going, mate. Huh? On the form, do not ask as much, ask as less as you could, please. Second one, after detect and profile as much as you could. For instance, if your user came into your registration form from your newsletter, you definitely know his email, so why not to profile it? Yes, that's big issue for the backend team, but you design it, right? Third, activate necessary field automatically. So guide your respondent with the after focus on the right and the first one field that should be filled out, right? So this is the example from the Apple checkout flow when I mentioned that zip code should be filled out. Actually, when I go through this flow, I missed this step because I didn't saw that this field should be filled out. Why not to put the cursor out there and just guide the user that he have to fill it out. Divide fields into semantic groups. So on the left side and on the right side, it's totally the same form. It's totally the same number of the fields, but on the left side feels like a whole bunch of different fields, right? That's really hard to fill out. On the right side, okay, I can handle it. It's only 3 parts with four different fields. That's fine. Who knows what is the number? This one. Right. This is the credit card. This one, in this way, it's more similar, right? So we put in the additional spaces and grouping on the semantic groups any information that we need to, just to more to give us our brain more way to remember it. Fifth, using live validation after the answers. This one is quite complicated, so I will dive in a little bit more. When you need to validate your field and input that the user fill out the field, you need to do that after he replied and switch to another field. Not when I fill out the whole page, the whole form of 14 or more fields, click or OK, continue, something going on, loading, and then, oh, sorry, mate, your first field filled out wrong. The same happened with the on the Apple checkout flow. So those 3 fields on the left side, first name, last name, and street address, sorry, is not filled out, but they already barking on me. So when you already know, and in most cases you already know, and your front end already know that one of the fields is wrongly filled out, you have to say it about that to the user to respond that. And in most cases, you know exactly error, exactly the exact reason for that. So you remember the screen, right? This is the same issue. One more example, Google login form. But this case works only when you used to use VPN. So on the first screen, you type in the email address, clicking go forward, type in the password, and after that they removing your password and asking you to fill out the captcha. But they put in focus on the next field. So you first have to put captcha, and after that password once again. And when you need to log in 3-4 times a day, that's quite awful. 6, use input visual constraints. What does it mean? So once again, if you already know that, for instance, as shown here, the card number could be only consist of digits, why not to put the limits for input? Why not allow to type in any symbols but only digits? So your front end already know that this is wrong, and you on this step can say that with the exact information. And the second one, visual constraints, mean that your field doesn't have to be the same size, all the same size. First benefit of it is that unconsciously user will know that postal code could not be as huge as the, for instance, country or an address, right? In the same way as a state. And secondly, small field, different sizes for the fields will work as an anchor for the eyes. So when you're filling out a huge form, your eyes will be easier to jump from one field to another when you see different sizes, not the whole same form with the same size. 7, use labels outside of the fields, and if needed, use placeholders as well. So when you fill out the form, do not put your labels inside the fields itself. Especially when you type in the information, the label will, in most cases, disappear and you don't know what to type in right now. Or you can use this technique as quite often right now used on the online, labels used inside to use as less space around as possible. And when you type in some stuff inside, the label jumps up. This is the form of Shopify, and they use it quite often and works pretty well. 8, mark optional fields instead of mandatory or required one. Why in this way? In many forms you might see, and as example of Fluix form, you might see those red dots or the stars on the field that should be definitely filled out, right? So here is the thing. Baymart Institute and Nelson Norman Group saying that you have to mark those fields that should be, how to say it, let's say it another way. So the first rule, do you remember that we have to ask only the most important information? So if you ask in the most important information, you have only required fields in your form, right? So if you have only one optional field, let's say from 20, why to mark all the 20 fields with the red dots? Why not to mark only one with the optional? Besides that, red dots are not obvious. It doesn't give you the exact understanding what this means, right? But the label optional is quite obvious. 8, don't take the user out of the checkout process. So if you put in your form a lot of different links, read more, go ahead here, this one is for you, you will lose your user and potential customer. If you need to use the link inside your form, please try to use the target blank. That means that if the user will click on this link, it will be open on a new tab, not on the same tab where the checkout process is going on. All good for now, or retired already, because third part will be even more drastic for you. But I believe this will be practical. So 10th, be clear in your error message. That I already mentioned, but you probably saw this, oops, something went wrong. What does it mean? Nobody knows, right? But your backend and your front end, in most cases, already know the reason what's happening and why your checkout doesn't work. So say about that. Mind local differences. In that case, on the left side, as you can see, the country is Sweden, but zip code is wrong for them because they used to know the postal code. They don't use zip code. Zip code is only for America. So if you know that country is different, change the labels as well as they know them. Also, they don't have states, right? So why to put this field out there? And if you use the placeholders, it will be good practice to change them as well appropriately to the selected country. Also, you probably know that surname, last name, family name is totally the same shit, but every one country use different words for that. So mind local differences. 12. Always explain why and what for you're asking for additional information. So this is the form. Who actually can say what the form, login form, sign up form, this is. That was pretty fast. Okay, so they have this question here. Why do we need your birthday? It's quite obvious in this case because if you are not adult, they will clean up your feed just right away from the pornography, politics, and so on. So they explain us why they're asking. So do the same. If you're asking for instance, phone number for when you're registering your user for to buy a chair, why do you ask this number, right? 13. Use one column layout instead of two or even more. On the left side, we used there is two columns, and for the eyes and eyes fixations, there will be way more difficult paths to go through the whole form. Instead of the one column size, you will go directly in one line. So that will be way easier for your eyes to go through. Also, mind accessibility and use and support colorblind people. So this is just the short example of free fields and how we design the form and the UI itself for different colorblind disabilities. Django, if you use Photoshop, Django actions will help you to handle that. So if you want to use it, just scan QR code and you'll download it. For the Sketch users, you can use Stark plugin that will help you to understand if your UI is accessible. Okay, so why this stuff so strange and why so many stuff out there and what's the benefits, right? So the benefits are quite huge. And this is the only, by improving and implementing inline validation, only one point of that, according to Wróblewski, sorry. It's quite hard to pronounce it, research. So by implementing the right validation fields, you can increase success rate, you can decrease the error made, increase the satisfaction rating, decrease and the completion time and eyes fixations. Now imagine if you will do all properly, how fast and easily your form will be filled out by the user, by your potential customer. So now I'm going to switch to the form I have to design for the Fluix itself and the checkout flow. So this is the form, and to give you the understanding that this form will be seen by the user inside admin portal when the trial experience is already ended. And here is the thing. This is the exactly first step when the user coming in. And as you can see, already 4 fields are pre-filled out. Why? Because we already know his name, we already know his company, email, and phone number that he give us on the registration, initial step of the registration. We can easily detect the country by IP or by initial information. But you might ask why I didn't remove those fields from here. The reason is that because we are on B2B market, I could not, I have to give the user opportunity to change that, because the person who get the trial registration might be completely different of the person who will pay for it, for the product. So I have to give the possibility to change billing person, right? So the whole form split in on 4 different parts. The first one, blue one, is the payment method. Green one is the billing person details. Yellow one is the shipping details. On the right side, green is the summary, and orange one is the confirmation. So now I will dive in way more deeper into each field and the constraints for each field from the inputs. So I will not share this, those slides in the future. So if you want to take the screenshots, or please take your camera right now, I will explain it. So since our business model is based on the number of users and the actual customer paying us for each one of the user, the first field is quite important for us. So we have to apply quite a lot of different limitations to it, to input, because we have the minimum value for it, 5 number. We have maximum number as well. Of course, we want to, the user will put 1 million of them, but not. And it's directly affects the total price in the end. So when the user changes the number here of the number of users, the total price in the end will be affected appropriately in time. I used 2 different options here. The first one, I tried to simplify it by just clicking on the exact amount of the users, but that doesn't case for us because of the business model. Then I tried the just the field when you can type in the exact number. That's pretty fine, but I used the steppers here as well, in addition to the field itself. So if my number will be, and in this case 58, why I have to activate the field, go to the keyboard, I just can click once the plus. So it will be easier for the small numbers, but I'm still able to put here as much as I want. Now, this one is not really interesting, but I will dive into more to the email. So we have to verify the email address because we will not apply the user who will applying with the his personal email. We only validate the business email. So after the after the @ symbol, we verify the company name. And if you use validation in browser, you can give this strange line of the symbols to your front-end team, and they will use browser validation for the email. So there will not be strange emails out there. So the phone number is the required field. It should be with validation as well. We use masks. Smart masks is the when we split the phone numbers on different parts according to the exact state and the country itself, as they use in your country. So, for instance, in that case, this is the format of the number for the United States. Country selector. This one is quite interesting because when you used to fill out any forms online, you probably know that when you click in on the country selector, there is a huge drop down on there, right? And it's quite hard to find proper needed country out there. So I completely redesigned it for ourselves and got rid of this drop down and used to split into two different parts. So the first part in drop-down will be frequently used countries, is that in our case is the most part of the market. So we use the United Kingdom, United States, and Germany and Netherlands, and after that go in the alphabetic list of whole countries. And there is the after completion field. So if I need some specific country like Afghanistan once again, I can type in here and I will see the suggestions. So instead of the whole long drop down, I use quite smart way for country selection. Zip code. Since zip code is used in United States only, other countries use different names for that. Someone use postal code, someone use postcode, someone use PIN, PO box, and so on. So for each country in our main market, we adapt the label of this field for them, so they will know exactly what they type in. Here is the interesting thing. For United States, they have zip+4 format, by which we can understand and validate the exact address of the user, the home street, the building itself, not just the city and the state. And many of the Americans quite familiar with their zip code. So in that case, if the customer is from the United States, we can use this system to detect the city and state and address itself automatically when he applied zip+4 format. So we help him or she to fill out 4 fields in one time. I'm running out of time a little bit, so I will skip a few steps. Address line. In many cases, you probably saw that there is 2 different address fields. Address line 1, address line 2. What does it mean? Nobody knows, actually. And in many cases, address line 2 is optional. Originally, when I designed this field, I made the research of how our existing users type in information out there, and nobody fill out this field properly. Address line 2 was never filled out properly. So I got rid of it completely and used only one field, huge one, where I suggesting that you can type here the whole address. Because in our mind, the whole address is one instance. Now to the interesting part, so the card number. As I mentioned before, we can understand the card number and the card type by only first four digits. In this case, 44 is applying for Visa card, so we can completely understand that by ourselves and suggesting user that we understand that this is Visa, so he doesn't have to choose the type of the card. Now, the constraints here for this field is that only digits, first of all, white space, and it should start only from with those digits. So this is because in our case the whole process, checkout process, is going through Stripe. So the bank accounts and transfer are going through Stripe, and they support only those type of cards and banks. So we have to give the sneak peek for the user that he can type in and start the card number only from those numbers. I'm sorry, and you probably as well, right? How are you feeling? So expiry date. Here is the fun thing here. So since there are only 4 digits in the cards that represent our represent the expiry date, you have to give the mask over here that will totally the same as on the card. So some of the checkout processes on the different sites, they asking just to type 4 digits without any splitting, any symbols that's showing that there is 2 digits only for the months and 2 digits only for the year. For the secure code, why this field called secure code? Because many of you probably know it as CVV or CVC, right? Because you probably use the MasterCard or Visa. But there are a huge bunch of different names for that, as different banks use different names for that. So I changed the name of this field as secure code because I didn't want to adapt it for any card that user will use here. So this is quite unified name for this case. Now, in the case when we understand the card type, we can give a sneak peek for user where exactly he can find the this secure code. For the American Express, they use 4 digits secure code, and this secure code on the front of the card, not on the back. For the other cases, we can find this CVV code on the back of the card, and we giving user sneak peek here, so anyone could find it. And the last one is the name on the card. Why not the holder, as everyone trying to name this field? So the name on the card in our case means that the person who registered the trial account might be different person from who will pay for it, right? And I might hold the card in my hand, totally different person. So when I hold in, if this name, this field will be named card holder or something, that might be what I should put in here, my name or which one. So we change this name of this field is to name on card, which I holding right now in my hands. Sorry for switching out and the rough time. So if you want to find a little bit more about this in details, every information you will find on this link. the whole article out there. It's split it on 4 parts. If you want to follow me and find a little bit more about me, some more information, follow me on Twitter, Medium, and Gumroad. I'm selling interesting parts, things for the designers. And the sources to read regarding the any stats, research behind the registration forms on Weimar Institute, Nelson Norman Group, and Elistapart. And my last quote, and I really stick to it, so the very user is real human, and this is you and me, so please be responsible for what you are doing. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening this quite horrible, maybe in some way, and boring speech, but I think it's really practical one, and you can use this information for your forms in the future, so please go ahead. This is for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's move forward, and we have a couple of questions. So please tell more about difference for forms. As I understand, it's about forms, desktop and mobile.
Different forms on desktop and mobile.
What are the differences? What are the tips for them?
I can give you an example here. So the pane form here works in this exactly way. As you can see, first 3 fields is only digits. So if we applying constraints here, as I mentioned, that only digits can be typed in here, on the mobile, you will see the proper keyboard with the only digits out there. When you switch in between fields, you will not switch the keyboard as well. And the last field is the name. So you can type different alphabet, different characters. And after that, when you type in, when you type the all the digits for the way, you can switch only once the keyboard on your mobile. And here is the fun moment as well, that every card number and every type of the card number, we already know the exact number of the digits for the card number, so we can automatically switch to the next field. We exactly know the exact number for the expiry date. There will be 4 digits, right? So we can switch to another field as well automatically. And after the secure number is typed, you have to confirm that by switching to another field, and that moment the keyboard will be switched on mobile. Am I replied to your question regarding mobile different and desktop difference? Maybe more? No?
If you have something to share, just give us more tips.
I think that will be enough for
Okay, so next question. What analytics tools do you use to track the performance of A/B tests and improvements you make on forms?
So we used to use the Google Analytics for sure, and Amplitude as well. And the fun thing that this form is still under construction for us. It's 4 years ago I have designed it, and we're still testing it. So the reason is because of the priorities, and the reason is because of the testing and A/B tests. So for now, we have applied 4 steps of the checkout process, sorry. And we actually have good performance right now. I could not share the numbers yet.
Thank you. So you criticized Apple and other because of their payment process. Do you have some suggestions for them? Isn't it just the wrong experience, or they have a reason?
Perhaps they have, yeah. Probably the person could be actually 120 years old and he can buy the ticket. But could he fly? I don't know. So, yeah, I have different suggestions, as I showed before for the NetAtmo. This is the, if you remember in the beginning, No, I will not. I will go another way. So this is the example of my form for the NetAtmo. No, I didn't design for the Apple, sorry. But for NetAtmo, yes.
Thank you. If someone has another question, just let me know, and maybe you want to ask them in person, or maybe you want to ask them in loud, so let me know about that. If not, I hope that Dmitry is not leaving today, tomorrow.
No, I'm not leaving. You can shoot me with your questions. I know this was boring, but this is still practical, and I hope you will use this practice for sure.
I just want to remind you that, oh, we have another question. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Is it possible to get state and city from zip code, not to ask user to fill this field?
Yes, we can have the information from the postal code and from the zip code for the address line, and for the city and for the country as well. This information Google already has everything. So you can use that, but your backend team will hate you.
They will. So I guess that's it. So just want to remind again about the beer. So I just want you to know that you can ask those questions which you didn't ask before. There, I hope that Dmitry will go with us. So
Yes, I will be here. So if you will have any questions, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, girls. That's it. And see you. Yeah, just if you want to join us to drink the beer, follow me. Just find me. I will be here. And see you next time.